Morning all. All right, so news of the day video to start things off, as well as a preview of tonight's game two. So it is game two in Las Vegas between the Florida Panthers and the Vegas Golden Knights. The winner, of course, your Stanley Cup champion. 8 o'clock Eastern, 5 o'clock Pacific, same start time as game one. And for Florida, they have to bounce back. So Bobrovsky has a .931 save percentage for these playoffs. It was an .879 save percentage in game one. He has to be better. The whole team in front of him has to be better, including Matthew Tkachuk. Tkachuk was kind of thrown off his game, especially towards the end there, ends up getting kicked out, which is no good for anybody. And I know people are saying, well, you know, it's because this happened and that happened. Well, you still can't get kicked out of the game. 9 goals, 12 assists, 21 points for Tkachuk. And so we'll see how everybody in Florida bounces back tonight. We have seen them bounce back in the playoffs before, obviously. Vegas does feel like a bit of a different creature, though, altogether. Aiden Hill's part of it. .938 save percentage. Lightning in a bottle for Hill thus far these playoffs. And Jack Eichel, who hasn't been scoring goals, but he's been really good. 6 goals, 14 assists, 20 points for him. It feels like this is kind of one of those stories that we'll talk about years down the road about maybe this is where Eichel really gets that maturity and figures out this is what I need to do to win. And sometimes you sacrifice your personal goals and point totals for the better of the team. So that may very well be part of what we're seeing. There's also some bad puck luck with Eichel over the last couple of rounds. But still, they're 3 wins from a Stanley Cup. I don't know that he'd necessarily care. So let me know who you think's going to win in the comment section below. Cole Caufield signs an 8-year extension. The cost, $7.85 million per. So Kent Hughes, I think, did a really good job on this contract. This is a good, solid signing. Last year in 46 games, 26 goals, 10 assists, 36 points. He's an elite goal scorer, not necessarily the best passer, and I know there's defensive issues there, but at $7.85 million, I think that's fair, which means, of course, the internet has to talk about how Mitch Marner's overpaid. Every contract, it feels like it turns into Mitch Marner's overpaid, so maybe there needs to be a video on that. At any rate, Caufield, excellent goal scorer, and is going to spend at least the next 8 seasons in Montreal. So the Habs doing a good job, I think, of building themselves up, and we'll see how things work out for Caufield this year. Here's to hoping for him to stay healthy and score 50 goals. That's my hope. Sean Day. Sean Day, a name that people who've played old NHL games would remember, in that he was exceptional. He was an exceptional player. And then it just didn't happen for him. But he signs a 1-year deal. It's a 2-way deal with Tampa Bay, $775,000 at the NHL level, meaning he gets paid significantly less at the American Hockey League level, and that's likely where he'll spend the season. But I think Sean Day's worth note because of the fact that he was exceptional and he was considered to be a really top prospect that just kind of fell off in his draft year. But hey, you know, he's sticking with it. He's in the AHL. He's living the dream on some level. It's not the NHL level, but it's still, you're getting paid to play hockey. You're still living the dream. Speaking of living the dream, Mike Babcock, closer apparently to being the coach for the Columbus Blue Jackets. Andy Strickland's reporting it's a 4-year deal for Mike Babcock. The interesting thing to me is that, you know, there was all this talk about, you know, how Dubas can't win and he can't win. And Babcock, who did win a Stanley Cup in 2008, I know, but hasn't been out of the first round in the last 10 seasons that he was behind the bench for either Detroit or Toronto, and that extends back to 2010. So I just find it interesting because I didn't see any comments about, you know, Babcock. Well, he hasn't got out of the second round since. So it's kind of interesting how that works. That certain managers and coaches, it feels like, are really, you know, held under that microscope, and others not so much. But for Babcock, I've also seen people saying, well, he was only mean to a couple of guys, big deal. No, it goes further than that. If you've listened to Mike Commodore, if you've read comments from people like Mark Fraser, for instance, yeah, it goes further than that. And I do wonder if he's going to be able to change the way that he coaches and his approach, which is important, right? We've seen with John Tortorella in Philadelphia, he is definitely not the same coach he was 20 years ago. He has adapted with the times, and I think that's what you have to do. So maybe Babcock this time around, maybe he's going to show that he's changed, or maybe this 4-year deal for Babcock is going to be one Kekalainen looks back on and says, probably should have thought differently. There's of course the joke about recycling coaches. The other side of it too is Babcock. This will be his first job since the Leafs fired him on November 20th of 2019. So we'll see how it turns out. You know, this is probably the last go around for Babcock. If this doesn't work, this would probably be it. One thing I do not have on the board is Patrick Roy as of yet. Patrick Roy, of course, in his Quebec Ramparts, won the Memorial Cup last night. I did do the recap for that, of course. It's on the channel already. And yeah, Roy may very well be a hot commodity in the National Hockey League in terms of his coaching. And yeah, those Ramparts last night, very well coached team against a stacked Seattle team. They just handled it. They just took care of it. A lot of players on that Quebec team that they played as a unit, and it shows how important it is to play as the unit rather than, you know, highlighting just the star players and all that, which, again, that goes all the way up to the National Hockey League level. So if he could get the Rangers to play that way, who knows? Because they also have the star power to go with it. Now, to hockey outside the National Hockey League, tonight is Game 6 between Milwaukee and Coachella Valley. This is in California for Game 6, and if necessary, Game 7. Coachella Valley, the Firebirds, hoping it doesn't go to Game 7. They lead the series 3-2. The Admirals looking to fight off elimination tonight. So that should be an entertaining one if you're not able to watch, or if you don't want to watch the NHL Stanley Cup Final. There is AHL TV for watching the AHL playoffs. Not a free service, but yeah, I mean, I've had free access because we're season ticket holders with Abbotsford, so I can watch Abbotsford's road games if I choose to. And it's a pretty nice service to have. So there you go, free plug. They don't talk to me, I don't talk to them. But I just figured I'd throw that out there because I've seen people say, well, how do I watch AHL? There's AHL TV, again, not free, but there you go. I'd love to see, though, AHL's playoffs and finals carried on main networks. I really would. There are times where I'm watching either Sportsnet or TSN and saying, wow, they have 5 different channels or 6 different channels, and they're all showing the same thing. This is bizarre. Like, it's one of those weird choices, and I feel like it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world to have one network showing the AHL's Calder Cup. I think that would be a lot of fun. But hey, you know, let me know your thoughts in the comments section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.